You're not connected to audio, right? Yeah, we are ready to go.
I will call to order the April 17th, 2025 Hideout Planning Commission meeting. First call of business, is a roll call. Joel? Yes. Here. Rachel?
Here.
Glynis?
Here.
Donna?
Here.
Chase? And Tony is here. Okay, next item on the agenda, approval of the March minutes of the meeting. Does anybody have any questions or edits that they would like to make to those?
I move that we accept the March 4th, 2025 Planning Commission minutes.
I second it. Thank you. Let me take a vote. Joel?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Glynis?
Yes.
And Donna?
Yes, I read it, but I was not here for the meeting.
And Tony's a yes. Therefore, they will be accepted as is. Okay, now to the public hearing part of today's meeting. First, we'll do items 3 and 4, discussion and possible recommendation to the town council regarding an amendment of the official town hideout zoning map for the Elkhorn Springs development, and also number 4, discussion and possible recommendation to the Hideout Town Council regarding a master development agreement for the Elkhorn Springs development, which would include nightly rentals in zoning districts that do not currently allow for nightly rentals. Both those items will be continued to a date certain of May 17th.
I believe so. Is that right, Kathleen? Sorry, I didn't have my
It
calendar
was
up.
to be determined on for this meeting.
Yeah.
Do we want it to be the regular meeting?
Yes.
Okay, it'd be the
May
15th.
Thank
Yep.
you, Rachel. May 15th. It will be adjourned to. If anyone is here, that want to make a public statement on that. Please, Joel, if you don't mind fixing the podium so they can step up for that. Sure. Thank you. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to make a statement in regard to those two items? Okay, there being none, is there anyone online who would like to make a statement in regard to those two items? Okay, so then we will close the public discussion in regard to items 3 and 4 on the agenda. Now we'll go number 1, discussion and possible recommendation to the town council regarding a preliminary plat master development agreement for parcel water course development. Okay, Thomas, do you want to take us through what has transpired since the last time?
Sure.
Hold on. Sorry,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we will do tonight is walk through the Wild Horse development. This is a project that has 2 components tonight: the conditional use permit, the conditional application for cluster development to reduce the lot sizes for this particular area, and then a discussion and a potential vote for rezoning and master development agreement associated with that. So if you don't mind going to the next slide, Alicia. So just by way of explanation for the cluster development there are a number of conditions for that are required for cluster development. These are these conditions I'll walk through in just a moment, but they're generally conditions that deal with the preservation of land, that deal with the protection of steep slopes, etc. As you guys may remember, this project came before you for a concept plan review and approval. This project includes 7 single-family lots that are located up on the upper part of the slope up in this area. And then there are 5 villas proposed along the SR 248 corridor between that and the driveway that goes up to Bill Wolf's property. And then the rezone is for the neighborhood mixed use that is proposed for the commercial development in that area that I kind of made a bit of a mess of. And so as we've been working with the applicant, there have been some changes that I think are important that we maybe walk through first before we go through much on the cluster development and the rezone, because it could have impacts with regard to setbacks, et cetera. And that is that when this was proposed, you can see the very last bullet point down there. This was proposed as a gated community beyond Wolf Drive, which essentially meant that there would be a gate right about that location. And if you wanted to go beyond there, it was a private drive. The applicant is proposing to use a PID, a public infrastructure district. Over the course of the past week or so has realized that a PID cannot be used if roads are going to be dedicated as private roads. And so they are now proposing an amendment to the application, and they would like for the Planning Commission to consider their request that the roads be public. And I'll probably turn it over to Jerry Kryland, the development advisor for this project, and or anybody else who's on the team. I can't see everybody who is in this room from the Wild Horse team, but maybe to let them walk you through the proposal, because essentially at the original proposal was for a private road that would be 26 feet of pavement. And that would be all the way up to the single family lots that sit at the highest portion of the slope. At 26 feet, that does not meet town standards, but if it does meet the fire marshal standards, typically 26 feet is their minimum width, no parking on either side or anything like that. But you can do that as part of a as part of a private road. But if those roads become public, our town standards are significantly wider than that. And so where 26 feet of pavement is currently proposed, the requirement would be 34 feet of width pavement. And that would be back of curb to back of curb, high back curb. So 6 inches on either side would be 33 feet of traversable, drivable surface. That would be the requirements. The applicant is proposing less than that.
Thomas, sorry to interrupt you. Can you speak to the right-of-way width as well, please? This is Gordon Miners.
Right-of-way width is 53 or 51 feet, Gordon. I think it's 53 feet, right?
It's 53. So if it was a public street, the right-of-way would be 53 feet wide.
So just to be clear, so the cartway, the pavement would be 34 feet, and then on either side of that is green strip, sidewalk area for underground utilities, etc. So 50 would be 53 feet wide. The pavement would be 34 feet wide. The applicant is proposing something less than that, and I should probably turn it over to Jerry to walk through what their proposal is. Unless, Gordon, did you want to jump in with regard to the road infrastructure as proposed?
I'll reserve comment until after the applicant has made their presentation.
Okay. Jerry, I think you're on here. I think you're in the car, but I think I see you now.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Thomas. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Gordon, other members of the committee. With regard to this particular item, we initially designed the roads for the extension of Wolf Road to mirror the exact dimensions and size as the existing Wolf Road that was developed by the adjacent developer for the claim properties, and subsequently to its completion, dedicated to the city. The city accepted it, I think, back in 2022 or 21. And so we took from that that we were going to be responsible for, and at our cost, the extension of that road, just as it's constructed today, curbs and gutters, et cetera. And so that's where that dimension came in. I would also just add one more thing, and that is, if we continue that dimension without making it any different size or anything, I think there'll be some continuity there. Plus, it sort of dead ends, if you will, at the Wolf property, and then it'll turn and go up into the estates property. Our single family, there's only 7 lots in that particular area. We would continue, or at least it was our notion to continue the same design as Thomas related it here, up through that extension, then into where the estates are as well. So it's not going to be tied back into, either a state or county or city road. So anyways, that's our purpose, and for our design being the size that it is.
Gordon, did you want to weigh in on the road width?
Is the applicant finished?
Jerry, are you done?
Yes, Gordon, I am.
Okay, with regard to the road width, this is all a surprise. This proposal of these roads being public and narrow, substandard narrow, is a surprise. This was, I guess, presented to Thomas last week before or after the deadline for public noticing and so forth. And so I haven't had an opportunity to entertain the rationale that the applicant's making. So, the town's at a disadvantage to have the applicant spring something new at the last second. This apparently the rationale is because the city built it a certain way, we should be justifying and copying that, and that's not a correct rationale. The standards were different then. The town has new standards, and just because the town did something somewhere else, even if it's adjacent, doesn't entitle somebody to repeat that. So the existing road is not a standard.
What if,
Go ahead.
no, sorry, Gordon, this is Glennis. What if the, Wolf Road were made to our standards, but the other road, since it only services 7 lots, was the thinner road?
Well, that was the idea from the applicant. It had been for some time, and that was a viable option. And the answer was, sure, you can do that if the council ultimately allows you to have a private street. And so that was the discussion until, well, I guess until last week when this got sprung on us.
I guess this is Joel. I would ask the applicant, going from 26 feet to 34 feet. I know that creates a pinch point at the Claim Road, but is that feasible going back to, Mr. Wolf's property, going from 26 feet to 34 feet, just on that stretch?
Yes, I guess I would respond this way. I would say, first of all, with all due respect to Mr. Minor, Gordon, the road has always been to spec the prior specifications of what the city had. Curbs, not just soft shoulders, etc., curbs and gutters. And it's always been our intent to align with what you have in the road that's coming into the space right now, so that there is continuity. We intend to carry that through up into the residential area. To answer your question directly, Joel, we can, if the city directs us, take just that stretch up to Mr. Wolf's property and expand it to the new dimensions that were issued. I guess those were just came out in January. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but we'll do that.
But what about the section from where your red line is, Thomas, down to 248? Because that's gonna see the same traffic as the other section.
You're saying all the way down?
Yeah, I'm saying like that whole section is gonna
Expand the
see,
existing
yeah.
to
because
34.
You're gonna see, that's where you're gonna get into the commercial area. So that's where the traffic is gonna be, so I would think you would want the bigger road with where the traffic's gonna be.
The property on either side of that road that you're referring to is the city's property.
Mm-hmm.
If I may, Justin Keys, I actually represent the applicant as well. I'm the attorney. So I thought I would just get up. I apologize if I'm interrupting, but you can. That's the apology. But anyway, I just want to weigh in quickly. So we do want to comply with city standards. I think we do have some question. We were never intending, we always intended to have a PID. And that's where this discussion came up. And in every iteration of the NPD that we circulated, we clearly stated it was a PID. And where this arose as a topic item is, the attorneys pointed out, you can't have a PID if they're private streets. And so if that's private in nature at all, then the PID is not on the table. I think it was more than a week ago, I circulated a red line that showed this probably a month ago, but.
Even if the upper part was private and the lower part was not?
Well, I think it could be to private lane standards, but it would still need to have public access available to it. We wouldn't gate it, which is what we've talked about, is no longer gating it. So it would have that, which makes some sense as well, because there's a request from the town that we tie into any trails that Claim has. And if it's gated and we tie in and you can't get to it, there's not a whole lot of public access availability there. So these are the kind of behind the scenes conversations we've had. I was also just something that intrigued me. I think that code change they referenced happened in January. This application, of course, predates January by quite some time. And the code that would apply to our application would be the code that was in place at the time that we put our submission in and paid the fee. That's debatable.
So with all due respect, may I speak, please?
Of course.
I guess Cameron's on the line, so Cameron can speak to this. But when you're vested, you get vested when you apply for a preliminary or final subdivision plat. Applying for a zone change does not vest you into a code. So Cameron can correct me on this, but I believe the applicant's counsel is wrong on that matter.
Disagree. I mean, I've litigated vesting cases. They're very specific, but I'm happy to hear it. I mean,
Is Cameron on the call?
Cameron, your opinion, please.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna determine vesting here tonight, and so I think what was applied for is what's at issue. And so that's what the planning commission should decide on. If there's a change to the application, a material change, I think that arguably would change what vests, what the vesting timeframe is. So it depends on what's applied for and what's before the planning commission.
Your original application called for a PID, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. What is curtailing you from building the road to the current town specs? Is it the terrain, is it the cost, or is it something else?
I think it's in large part, I'm not an engineer, I'll admit, but in large part, I believe it's the terrain, right? We have some substantial cuts in order to make that road work there. It's in that location, given the terrain. We've had to rework that in several different ways. And I think what I hear my client saying is we thought this was to the code at the time we originally designed it. And that's what I was trying to get at. Now, the code may have changed in the interim, but you know, that.
So I'd like to weigh in when it's my turn again, please.
I'll add, this is Jerry Kryland. I'll add one thing to what our council just mentioned. In addition to the terrain, there is a cost element, you know, widening the road 4 additional feet or so. And for that length, I don't know the length off the top of my head, but my recollection is it's 500 some odd square feet. That translates into a couple $100,000 of additional project cost. But as I said, we're willing on that stretch there to collaborate and work with the city if that's your request. Go ahead, Gordon.
When it's my turn, Sir Chair.
Go ahead, Gordon, please.
We need to remember that the standard, even if the client, even if the applicant were vested under the old code, the standard was 51 feet of right of way. So we're not talking about just pavement. We're talking about right of way. So I'm hearing the applicant say they're willing to comply with town standards on that existing stretch. So that would be 53 feet of right of way. It only changed by 2 feet in January. So that would be 53 feet of right of way. And I thought I heard the applicant's counsel say that they were willing to build to, he can correct me, public standards or something up the hill. But the question was, are they requesting that the road up the hill be public? Because if it's private, they're good to go. If it's public, it's a real problem. It's not remotely close to meeting standard.
Our intention is to have it, as council said, for purposes of obtaining a PID, to have it a public road throughout.
But
Okay,
if
so
it's-
so
then it's public, then-
those are competing interests. There's no way for it to be well, of course, this is a decision of the recommendation of the planning commission and ultimate decision of the council. But what's presented to us is not remotely close to being a public right of way. So if I'm hearing them correctly, they're saying we want to build 26 feet of right of way, but we want it to be a city street anyway.
Rachel, you have something to say?
I was saying, if it's a public road, then the town has to maintain it.
Yes.
And then it should meet our standards in order for it to maintain.
I think we are prepared to maintain it, at least in the interim. I've had a conversation with clients, and it comes up at times that we can have a maintenance component. There's several components to maintenance, whether that's just snow removal or ongoing maintenance. And there's sort of two different issues that have come up: maintenance of the road versus maintenance of utilities, that we've had conversations about recently. But I think my client is open to the concept of maintaining that section of road. It's just, if it's private in nature, then they don't qualify to have a PID. So we'd have to have a PID on one component and not on the other, which is why it's come up. And I'm not sure.
You don't, and would you be open to that?
Yes.
you would be open to I'll say the Wolf Road section being widened and being public, and then the estate lots being narrower and private, thus no pit.
I think that becomes problematic. My client can correct me.
Yeah.
That's right. That is problematic because of the other discussion that's been had about when you talk about maintenance for the road and the utilities in the road in what would be serving 7 lots. We're more than happy to maintain it in terms of snow removal and things like that. But once we pay the cost to put all the infrastructure in, including the drainage and the utilities, even the ones going up above Wolf Road to serve the 7 lots that are up there. Our intention is to have that be public and the responsibility for long-term maintenance, not the snow removal. We'll do that, but that all inure to the city.
So I guess what's the difference between today and when you initially submitted months ago when it was private, gated? What has caused that change to where you can't do it now, but you were willing to do it then?
No, we weren't willing to do we were calling it private because we had the intention of having a gated community there, because of the exclusivity and the scale and the size of the homes that are going to be brought to the site there. They're they're some of the best properties in town, I think. And when we finish the project, it's pursuing the PID.
But it was private then, so you're saying it's a cost issue now, you've decided, because then it was
No.
private, it was gated. Is
I'm
that
sorry,
correct?
it wasn't a cost issue. We always intended in our initial application to go with the PID. The PID does not allow it to be private. So we're not going to make it private, so we can continue to use the public infrastructure district statute.
I kind of feel like you're not answering my question. It was going to be private before, right? Am I correct? Gated and private. And now,
No.
because I guess you don't qualify for a PID, you want it to be public. So I guess what I'm understanding is you need the PID for the development. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if I could just quickly, there's kind of 2 components of private. I think they were calling it a private road. They never intended for the utilities to be private. And this is something we've gone back and
But that's like having your cake and eating it too.
frankly, I don't think the utilities can be private. We don't have a well up there. We don't have our own sewer system. The intention is to hook up to JSSD. And if you look
So
at
I need to make clarification on this when it's my turn.
JSSD has their own requirements for turnover, right? Once you as a developer, you bond, you have a warranty, you put the infrastructure in consistent with JSSD specs. But then once it's all in, you hook up with JSSD, and depending on where you're at, it's through a town like Hideout who then contracts with JSSD. That's what we were contemplating, right? We weren't.
That's right.
We weren't getting perk tests to go put, other alternative sewage systems in or drilling a well or anything like that. We always contemplated that we would be looking at public utilities, if you will. And as I understand it, in my conversations with those special service districts, they require you to turn over the infrastructure after you complete it to their specs, just like Rocky Mountain Power and the others. So even if a road is private, there's plenty of these communities around where the roads are private, but the utilities are public. You just have to have easements, right? So that they can get in and maintain those utilities in the way that they would anticipate. So that's what my client, I believe, anticipated and designed around. And then this is sort of a lawyer fault. You say, well, you can't call a road private and then get a pit. Right? That doesn't work. It has to be a public road. And then we are up against this hard spot where private road requirements are narrower than public road requirements. And we do have substantial slopes here. We're already looking for exceptions on retaining walls. If we widen it, we're gonna have to go even taller on those retaining walls, which is something we are trying to avoid for the visual purpose. So anyway,
When it's my turn, Chair.
Go ahead, Gordon.
So the applicant's counsel is misinformed. And if they would have interacted with me over this long period of time, they might have gone away with a better understanding. From day one, the message to them has been that the city was unwilling, at least from a staff's recommendation standpoint, to have the utilities, the storm drain, sewer, water, be publicly owned and maintained in a private street. And the part where the applicant's counsel is misinformed, the comments that have come from me consistently have been the terminology of master metering. And so all of this discussion about approaching JSSD and having wells and all of that is totally off base and irrelevant. All it means when we're talking about privately owned and maintained pipelines, that means just the pipelines. They would be able to connect to the town's infrastructure down on Wolf Road. There would be a master meter with the drinking water system, and they would connect into the city's sewer and storm drain system. So respectfully, if you would strike from your memories all of that explanation from the applicant's counsel about not being able to do it through a third party, it's irrelevant.
If I may quickly, I disagree. I do this on a daily basis. Many of these providers will not allow you to master meter, depending on who the provider is, right? For example, I'm fighting with.
Do you know for a fact, counsel, that JSSD won't let you?
I have not contacted JSSD on this point. I have not contacted JSSD, but I have dealt with this issue with Rocky Mountain Power. And I have dealt with it with Enbridge, our current gas provider, in a project right down the road. They will not let us master meter. They want a meter on every single home or unit that is being provided. So you have some homes with there. I think also you think about these future, your town members, think about it as a town councilor, or the planning commission, what it would be like living in a neighborhood where you're on a master meter with all of your neighbors. It just adds a level of complication in everything, because you've got one bill that you got to then disseminate through the HOA somehow, and who's using water more and who's using power more, and you got maybe you got sub meters. It adds, in my opinion, it's just a bad idea. I know that Mr. Miner is going to disagree with me, but it's a bad idea.
When it's my turn, Chair.
You're avoiding the slightest bit of expense for the town at the cost of your residents, right? None of us would enjoy that experience. And these are high-end homes that I think are entitled to be treated in the same way as other residents, right? I know that this is an agenda item that Mr. Miner has on for later, that this is something he would like to add to the code, this be the basic requirement. I'm just telling you, based on my experience, I think it's a very bad idea, practically speaking, carried out. And I know that he disagrees, but he's entitled to his opinion, and I'm happy to hear it.
Thank you.
Is it my turn, Chair?
Gordon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so first of all, the town has control over these utilities. So it's the town's prerogative and authority to master meter them. So this isn't a discussion about any other utilities. The town is ready and willing to master meter the water system. That's it. We're talking about one master meter. And the applicant's counsel is misinformed. If we're going to compare resumes, I guess we can compare resumes, because master metered private developments exist in countless numbers successfully throughout the state.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
Perhaps a way to think about this is that if what our intent has always been from the minute we made our first concept plan application nearly a year or more ago, was that we want the access and the services to these upscale residential properties to be of a quality and a standard that's befitting to what we found in town at that time. And if you think of it this way, I would ask the committee to consider that if you were to walk through right now through the claimed property, that are 26 feet. We're talking about a 4 or 5 foot difference in size of road here, but the same design in terms of curbs and gutters, width of the road. Um, uh, when you go through the claim property and you come up to the upper end, the third phase of it, which ties in to our property, not permanently, but it will be there for purposes of appeasing the Wasatch Fire District as another means of access into the site, which we're glad to do. There would be continuity of the way the roads look, the curbs, the gutters, everything all the way through what you see and what you drive through and walk through right now at Claim in through our property. We are willing to, if as committee member Joel said there, make it a little bit wider on this stretch that is in front of the commercial down to Mr. Wolf's property. Happy to do that. It always has been our intent that what we construct will eventually be dedicated in terms of the roads and utilities, dedicated back to the city. So in summary, it's all going to look like what you have next door, except for maybe 5 feet wider in front of the retail area there that we're bringing to the city. And, our HOA will continue forever doing the snow removal. But as far as after we pay for all the infrastructure and it's always been our intention that it be the cities. So I'll leave it at that.
When it's my turn, Mr. Chair.
Gordon, go ahead, because we have to close the discussion on this amongst ourselves, because we have a lot more in this project than the next one item to get through tonight.
Okay, it's understood that it's always been the intention of the applicant to do these things. And the feedback the applicant has been given all of this time has been contrary to that. And the applicant has ignored those comments throughout. So there's never been any indication from the town of agreement on these issues.
I'll take issue with that only in the sense, and then we can move on, Mr. Chairman. Our application predated Mr. Minor's coming to the city. So we did not have, when we first submitted it, such responses. And so we weren't ignoring it. It didn't change.
Well, the applicant has ignored me from day one.
Disagree.
Well,
Thomas, if you want to pick up where you left off before this spirited discussion.
I think there's a question from the audience.
When it comes time for public comment, when we're done.
Right, can I add one thing, Tom?
Go ahead, Rachel.
I'm just gonna say the initial discussion was not about residential property at all. The initial discussion was just centered on the commercial area, so I have a little issue with what was just said about that it predated when we had the engineer.
Thomas?
Sorry, I was muted. So sorry about that. Before we move on, then, have we come to an agreement, because your decision impacts some of the setbacks and potential MDA exceptions down the road. So are we, if I understood this correctly, are we proposing that the road would be public and it would meet town standards from 248 up to Wolf for the commercial property? And then what was the decision for the road that goes up to the 7 lots?
We didn't make any decision. We just had a discussion about it. Do you need us to vote on that? We have to make a motion.
It might be maybe at least a little bit of a discussion, because down in subsequent slides, we're going to make some decisions regarding setbacks. If that road is private, setbacks can be reduced. If it's public, setbacks, the front setbacks, for example, up in this area would have to be increased, or you would have to provide, or you would be providing an exception in the MDA if that was your prerogative. But it just will make a little bit of difference as we move through this.
I believe the one thing that the petitioner has said is that the road will be public. He doesn't have a choice if he wants to use his pit.
Right.
So all of this would be public. And what widths did we settle on? Town standards, or was there different for the two roads? Just so I
We
understand.
haven't yet, but hang on one second, Thomas. Go ahead, Council.
So I think the issue is, what is the proposal from the applicant, right? We have a submission, we have some discussion, we have some proposals, we potentially have a compromise, but what is on the application? That's what the planning commission can vote to recommend or not. And so,
Or technically, we can make a recommendation to amend it,
right,
whatever we want, and he can either accept it or reject it.
right. And so what I just want to make to clarify is, make sure what the applicant is asking for when you consider and make a recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, do you want to state what you're asking for or willing to do?
Sure, I'll do it as clearly as I can. We are asking for all the roads all the way through that we put into the entire development, that run through the entire 15 acres to be all public roads when completed. We will design them to match the standard that is in place with or follow what's been installed in the adjacent property, since it comes right into ours, meaning the claim property. But we're also willing, if the planning commission so recommends it, to widen that area for the road of the extension of Wolf Road from where it is unimproved right now, all the way up to Mr. Wolf's property, to the, by the 4 or 5 feet or whatever it is, further additional width. So in front of the commercial space. As far as further widening what's already in place and owned by the city to the south, the point was made that, that will be 4 or 5 feet narrower. I don't know that should be our responsibility to pay for that widening. And 4 or 5 feet is really, I think, a nominal change that will not affect or impede the traffic flow from 7 lots or 12 lots that we have and some of the commercial out onto 248.
Well, but in the spirit of goodwill, you could also volunteer to widen the bottom part of the town road.
Especially with.
All right. You know what, Mr. Chairman, I, in the spirit of goodwill, since we're going to be tearing up a lot of that, anyways, just to make sure we're clear on it, there's two components of the road. There's what's known as Wolf Road right now, Gray Wolf Road, that goes from 248 up into our site. And then it does make a turn and become minor road. We are not up for, we will widen and make and match up what's known as Gray Wolf Road today, which we're going to rename. But I don't think we should be obligated or to expand the minor, which goes deeper into claim property. But we'll do it. That's fine. In the spirit of cooperation, we'll be willing to do that whole stretch. Widen it.
Clarification on the 34 feet that was written there on the Wolf Road.
Yes, sir.
The public standard for the right of way is 53 feet.
Thomas, let me make sure that we have, for everybody's benefit, we have clarification on exactly what that means. It means that there's 10 foot of right of way for utilities, PUE, on either side of the finished curb area, and then the road asphalt or whatever it is itself, and cumulatively across from the PUE to the other side of the PUE on the other side of the road is what you're talking about, Gordon, 51 feet.
No, and those aren't questions for Thomas. Those are questions for me. Public utility easement goes outside of the right of way, behind the right of way. So that's the city right of way, the town right of way is 53 feet.
Oh.
That includes.
Well, we're not adding then, we're not going from your drawing, your plan that you had clouded on one of our engineer's plan, took it from 26 feet that we were showing to 30 feet wide. If we're talking about another 20 feet, we can't do that.
That's the public standard. And of course, that's been the message. That's been our interaction in a nutshell from the day we met. Is this is the standard, Mr. Krylan, and your answer has been we don't want to do that.
We'd be precluded from doing the retail, I believe, the commercial space by losing that much territory.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tim Schoen. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, obviously I have Mr. Krylan and my whole group representing us. All we're asking for is understanding reciprocity and trying to build a transformational property for the city and us. I can't understand, and I'm not in the weeds with all of them, but how can we go to 53 feet from whatever claim did? That makes no sense to me. And I'm just the money guy. It's my land, but where is the reciprocity? The strategy seems flawed.
Well, Mr. Schoen, I can't answer that question for you because I'm not an engineer, okay? I will say this, from where let's call it where the gate was allegedly going to be, up to the 7 homes. Well, I don't like the road being not to town standards. It's basically a road to nowhere. So, although I think it might set a bad precedent, I could probably live with that. But I would like to see the road the same length of what rest of the way down. I mean, I don't think I think it might be somewhat of a safety issue if you're going from coming down, you're going from a wider road into a narrower road.
I think just to be clear, we are proposing to go to 34 feet all the way down. That's what I heard Jerry proposing.
All the way
The
down.
Wolf
But then
property,
you
Wolf
also,
property to 248.
you also have the setbacks.
Yeah.
It's the setbacks, the additional, then the
They
utilities
go-
have to be outside that setback.
It's the right of way. It's the additional right of way that's the issue here.
Right.
I want to add that I'm also a little concerned we're gonna have 5 driveways going out to that road.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
the next
that
discussion.
looks like that could be a danger.
Yeah, is that a good segue to the next discussion?
So if the road was 26 feet wide as proposed, what was the right of way on each
Yeah.
side of the road? Was it 10 feet still on each side of Wolf Road? If the current proposal is 26 feet, am I correct on that? It's 26 feet right now?
If I'm remembering correctly, the proposal was for 26 feet of right of way. So 26 feet of pavement and 26 feet of right of way.
Thomas, you have it on the plan there that's up on the screen right now.
Right. Alicia, are you able to zoom in on that? At that little, where your hand is down there, can you zoom in?
Did you read that?
No. No, can't read it.
This little table?
Yeah, the table right there.
Oh, it's a table. Yeah, well, it is kind of blurry.
Here, I can zoom in on my image. I can. So the way that it was proposed, what that actually says is that the right of way would be 26 feet. So the right of way would match the pavement. And then there was a 10-foot public utility easement either side for snow storage and public utilities, it looks like here.
So a public utility easement is not a city easement. It cannot be used for snow storage. There's a big misunderstanding about public utility easements. Those are not, the city does not have any jurisdiction or right to use public utility easements. The city's utilities are not public utilities. Public utilities are those that are regulated by the Public Service Commission, gas and telecom. So the 26 feet of right of way, there's no place for snow storage.
So again, I'm just trying to get an answer. How far off are we from the proposal versus going to a 34-foot with the right of ways, the easements? Can anybody tell me?
Well, I can tell you the public standards. The public standard is 53 feet of right of way and 34 feet, 35 feet back of curb to back of curb.
Again,
So
Mr. Chairman, our intention is to match what is adjacent coming through the claim property there.
And I don't know what those right of way widths are in claim. And that's just the past. The past is the past.
Right, so is it possible to get the right-of-way widths from claim and put those with the 34 feet wide of pavement, get those figures and see if that works?
We would be willing to do that. What I find challenging is that for a relatively, there's a lot of projects going on in Hideout, a lot of big projects, much larger than this, and I fully appreciate and support when standards, because of a growth of a municipality, warrants it, that there are changes and upgrades and improving, because you should have long range foresight in what you're doing. For what our project is, where our two roads are dead ends and unlikely to be connected in to a major road throughout the foreseeable future ever, that a small project like this is being subject to that, when we've offered to match what's adjacent to us immediately, and also now offering to widen the road coming in Gray Wolf Road and the 34 feet of pavement from the 26 whatever on our current plan in front of the commercial.
To answer the commissioner's question, I don't know what right of way widths exist in claim, but I can't speak to that tonight.
Right, and I understand that. So would it be possible for everybody to get their heads together and come back or get this information to us so we can either move forward or not move forward? One difference is there is a commercial component to it. So I don't like the narrow road in claim because of the commercial component. That's my opinion. Yes, there are only 7 lots there, but there's the commercial aspect. So I personally feel the road should be wider for the commercial aspect. That's why I'm asking if you all could meet and discuss and come to these numbers, and let's see if it works. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Everybody moves on. Hopefully it will work, but we're just I feel like we're spinning our wheels here. So if you all can agree to do that, I don't know about the rest of the commission. I'm open to that. I would also ask for, and I think you said you would do that snow removal for all of those roads. I would entertain it.
Can I add to the, also, if there's a way to look at the driveways and see if there's a way to maybe not have 5 driveways?
Well, that's the next topic.
Well, if we're gonna look at that.
Yeah.
Come back.
Again, it's a street, you're gonna have driveways, I'm not too worried about the driveways. I don't see how they could put another road in alongside.
Well, they did it before. That's what we were shown the last time. Those 5 lots were not like this. They were a cluster off of one road. Which I liked better personally
I
than
did
the
too.
5
I like that.
driveways.
Well, you all wanna ask them of that, sure,
Yeah,
I prefer just a one road. Then you have concrete everywhere if you have another road. Going parallel with Wolf Road.
no, parallel. Remember how they had a road coming down and then there were 5 little lots off of it?
Yeah, Thomas,
Do
or
we have it?
or do you have a configuration of it from what it was
Oh, he's
before?
drawing it.
Ah. I thought maybe.
Oops, sorry. I could show you, the proposal was essentially, as you guys were describing, it was a road kind of that went here. There were a couple of units up here and then
Yeah,
3 down here.
yeah.
And I think what you're suggesting is some concern about the driveways for each road here, given that this is the driveway into the commercial right here, I think.
And then on top of that, you've got parking issues in front of all of these single family residences on a narrow street.
We could look at doing something, we could go back and kind of look at this option. That would be 1 curb cut here, 1 curb cut here for the commercial, and it would eliminate these individuals.
Thomas, it was your recommendation to veer off of that layout there because we could not meet the setback requirements under that scenario. That's why it changed to the direction that it is today. There's much more.
The property,
can meet the
that
set-
portion couldn't hold 5 lots. Maybe it only could hold 3 lots.
So we haven't talked about drainage yet. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that those bottom 2 lots aren't going to be compromised by a drainage rectangle that they put in the back of the lots with no way to access it, in spite of my comment about that.
We could look certainly at this option, especially in light of, I guess, Gordon's comment relative to stormwater management infrastructure down here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Over the last 8 to 12 weeks or so of discussion about this site and getting it to the design that we currently have here, as a developer, we have, I believe, it's fair to say, acquiesced on a number of different things. We are asking for flexibility in the code, no question, not disputing that at all. We have, as far as the estate lots up behind the commercial up above, we initially had up to 9 lots. And for reasons of discussion about setback, about preserving natural area, about building on certain slope criteria, etc., we have agreed to lose upwards of 3 acres of land and value related to that in getting to the current plan you're looking at here. I can go on further about how the discussions have resulted in these 5 villa lots down below being the configuration that they are right now, including the discussion that we've made it very clear there's a limitation to how much we can give up and be able to still be willing and committed to bringing some commercial, much needed commercial to the city. you know, we talked about the term compromise. I think we've done a fair amount of that, and we've gotten to a place where we're delivering sites, single family lots that are going to be ultra luxury, lots of additional tax revenue from the commercial. Every one of the sites, as positioned now, as you see it, are configured in such a way that they comply with the three tenets, if you will, of the town general plan, which is the creating a neighborhood, inviting neighborhood area, preserving natural territory. We have some almost 40% of the area we're giving up as maintaining it to the natural condition that it is today. And the third one is having stellar, maintaining the stellar views that this property and the rest of the city enjoys. Every one of these properties, the seven home lots up in the estates and the 5 villas and the commercial enjoy and have preserved that view plane for, as part of the general plan. If we are requested to reduce the number of lots that we have further, we will not be able to produce the commercial piece because the revenue will just not be there for us to do it. We'd love to bring this project to the city. We're more than open to and have demonstrated that willingness to expand roads in front of the retailers we needed there to make accommodation for preservation of land, position the lots so that we can have beautiful views, etc. That's all I have to say. Tim, do you want to add anything? Or with the chairman's permission, of course.
Jerry, I just, one thing to say with all due respect. Yes, you guys have compromised, all right? But so is the town, all right? The way that land is currently zoned, you're not allowed to build more than three properties. So, I mean, it's gone both ways.
Okay.
Well, Tony,
Jerry,
correct.
you willing to put this over though? Even if we have to do a special meeting to work out the issues in regard to the road connecting with claim and the right of way. Barry?
I'm sorry, was that a question? I didn't hear it.
If you're willing to put this over, even if we do a special meeting to see if we could work out the issues on the side in regard to connecting the two roads with the, at least close to the proper right of way. Cause that's a sticking point here. And we could drag this out for hours. And we're just going circles here.
I have to yield to the land property owner, Tim.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So, Gordon Minor, when it's my turn,
Be my guest, Gordon.
it sounds like the commission might be suggesting that I meet with the applicant and we talk about what's happened in claim. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
So I'll have to, as I'm sure all of you know, town engineer's job is to uphold the engineering standards. And so,
Gordon, I'm just asking you to sit down with them and see if we can work it out.
well, so what I'm getting at is I take direction from the mayor and city council. And so there would need to be consultation with the mayor and city council as to what, what my role is in those meetings.
Gordon, I'll tell you what, I'll call the mayor when the meeting is over, the mayor pro tem, when the meeting is over and ask her to discuss this with you. Okay,
Very good.
thank you. Okay, that being said.
I'll make a motion that we put it over to a special
We don't
meeting.
even have a
That being said, Jerry, do you want a special meeting or do you want to just put it over to the May 15th?
I would prefer sooner than later. There's been a number of times that this has been put over, so if it's the ability for the committee to meet in special session, let's do
Okay,
that,
Jerry,
please.
What we'll do then is put it over tentatively till May 15th, and then after this, we will see when everyone is available, and if we can move it up, we will, if to the earliest possible date, okay?
Okay, so to be clear, we're not being recommended by to the city council meeting in May or town council.
Well, you could
Steph?
be. All right, depending how soon you and Gordon and Thomas get together in regard to that. And then we'll, after the meeting tonight, we'll have a private session and see when everybody's availability is.
Okay,
All right?
sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank
Tim?
you. Thank you very much. So then, Alicia, then we will put this over to,
Great.
you want to put it over to May 15th or a date uncertain?
I would put it to May 15th. I would recommend that. So at least it's on the calendar. If we can do something earlier, then we've got that opportunity open.
Okay, thank you, Thomas.
Sure.
Before we do
I'm
that,
just trying to think.
we will open this up for public discussion. If anybody wants to speak to this issue in regard, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes, and it will be a hard 3 minutes.
I'll take one. Catherine Wilker, you live on 1194 North Shore. Seeing as how this would be the first commercial space, my biggest concern is safety. And so that the roads are wide enough that if there's a medical emergency or a fire in the commercial spaces, that a fire truck or an EMS vehicle could get up.
Before you go any further,
Yeah.
that's all been approved by the fire marshal from Montrose County.
Even the upper road, because what they're asking for is 26 feet, and the fire marshal.
And that's the minimum that the fire department requires.
With no parking on either side. So where are people parking for the commercial space?
They have designated parking.
Designated spots. And the upper road the same.
The other road will be their home. Yeah.
Right, but if that ties into public trails, if there's a medical emergency on a public trail. And they have to get out there, I just wanna make sure that if this is for the benefit of the town. That we're not creating a situation that is dangerous because our residents use it.
There would be no parking up there.
Okay,
So if you were using the trail,
but if you have a medical emergency, if you hike up there and they have to get to you,
Well, that would be no different than anywhere else.
okay.
why not?
It's wide enough for somebody to get up there.
Yeah.
That was my only concern.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we get your name for the record, please? Catherine Woltering, thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience? Yes.
I had 3 questions and I have 4.
Please state your name.
Yeah, William Wolf. So I just want to say, Tim, I appreciate your efforts to, get the clock going. I appreciate your efforts, and what you've done. To me, it's a good project. The, question 1 was all about the width of the road and which private is private. I'm not gonna talk about that. Question 2 is, if the commercial fails, does NDA limit to what else could replace it, or is it conditional?
It's owned by, they're the owners, they can do whatever they
So
want.
once it's rezoned, it could be anything, because like, there's
If they're gonna change it from what it stands there to a different thing, they would have to come before us.
okay, because like there's this, retirement center in Oakley that became a rehab center. is, I know they would do that. And if the restaurant, which I hope it doesn't, or the store fails, there's a whole list of things you can replace.
It would be rezoned for commercial use, so you couldn't do something like that.
Well, I
Without
remember that.
refiling and.
Okay. And then third one was about water flow. So when my property was built and the lake came in, the freeway came in, the water flowed down to a culvert underneath the thing, and then it flowed down towards the claim. And then the claim took all that away, and I complained. They said, well, it's just gonna sheet flow out. So I just want to make sure, especially with the amendments coming on in the last agenda item, which I'm gonna bid for, is, how does it affect the existing property and the direction of the water and where it goes?
I don't think anybody here that's up here can answer that question
Right.
for you. I would put that in an email forwarded to either us or Alicia, and she could forward it to the town engineer.
Yeah.
Who would be more suited to answering that. for
Okay.
you.
And then the last question just came up. So this is clearly, it looks like a continuation of Gray Wolf Road. And then there's a side road that splits off, which is Wild Horse Way. And then I heard a comment from Jerry Harlan that they want to rename Gray Wolf. And I take personal offense to that. I've been there before any other house on the lake was here, and then a developer comes in and wants to take the name away.
I can't honestly answer that question because I don't know
Yeah.
how names are assigned or designated.
Well, they said they want to change it, and it's the city's public road right now, and their street, and their name.
Well, you should contact the mayor.
Yeah. So, that was my only question. But other than that, I hope it works out. I
Thank
really
you
do.
very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It was good.
Any other questions from the audience? Do we have any questions from anybody that's online?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please state your name for the record, sir.
This is Brad Anderson. I have property on Longview, and I'm a little bit unfamiliar with where this site is. Do you have a site plan of the overall development where this is located?
It's on the other side of 248 from you.
The high side of 248?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and in relative to where my property would be, is it, where is it from the entry of Hideout?
Thomas, can you put
It's to the left of where claim now sits, sir.
Okay. Do you have a site plan there, gentlemen and ladies?
I might be able to help you just a little bit.
Okay,
This is SR 248.
yes.
This is effectively north. This is the claim development. So this sits just to the northwest of the claim development.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little late on the project, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions from anybody online? There being none, we will now close the public comment in regard to the Wild Horse project. That being said, will someone like to make the motion to adjourn this? Continue.
Continue this to a date certain.
Good try, Tony.
Freudian slip.
I'll make a motion to continue this on May 15th or
No, May 15th is the date starting. And moving it up earlier if possible. Based on availability. I'll second. Okay, then we'll take a vote. Joel? Yes. Rachel?
Yes.
Glynis?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
And Tony, the yes. Thank you. Now we move on to another item on the calendar. Discussion and possible recommendation to the Hideout Town Council regarding a final subdivision approval for Shoreline Phase 4 subdivision. Mr. Gable, you're in the audience. Do you have anything to say before we start this? Do you wanna stand up and make a public comment or something?
Yeah, we presented in August of last year. I believe 3 of you were here, and Tony and Glennis, I don't believe you were here. So I don't know if Thomas wants to go through the packet again real quickly, or if you got any specific questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
I do have one question
Yeah.
before we even start. I know when this was originally put on, it was back what in 2016,
Mhm.
okay,
Well, that was the.
No, that was the
concept
preliminary.
plan.
the concept
Yeah,
plan, correct. Mr. Phillips from the JSSD had stated that there was not enough water for this project. I just want to know if you since acquired enough water for this.
the long and short of the answer, yeah. So,
Have you provided the town with documentation stating such?
that's all handled at plat recording. So we'll get into that.
Yes, we
So I
will.
don't know if you want to answer that, or are you good?
Sorry, you all are adjusting keys again. I also represent Shoreline and GCD. Guys are gonna get tired of me tonight. I apologize. But yeah, we do have adequate water. The way that the MDA reads, it's required to provide proof of water at plat recording. We're not there yet. And then there's also a requirement in the MDA related to the town's provision of water. We kind of have an interesting relationship there, and we paid for water shares in advance. So that will go forward. He also had concerns at the time with regards to sewer. It came up, we have addressed all those, we've constructed a new pump station. One of the nice aspects of this project is that will be bringing that online to address all of the sewer concerns for both our project and the projects below us, the home project. So yeah, those issues I believe are resolved, should not be a problem. And then Thomas, did you have a presentation or did you want us to present? I don't, just want to, you always do a great job. I don't want to steal your thunder if you're planning to present.
No, I think that the planning commission has a pretty good understanding of this project. The report that I submitted is relatively unchanged from August. So if you guys want to jump into your issues, we can supplement as needed.
So, yeah, I'll be happy to answer. It's the same packet that was there for August. I noticed there's a few slides missing in the packet. Kind of some renderings of the clubhouse concept and some landscape plans. But Thomas has those and we've submitted those. In fact, I emailed them to Thomas. Thomas, did you get that email?
When did you send the email?
Like 20 minutes ago?
Oh, give me 1 second. Okay, hang on.
I got it on my, okay, so why don't we let, he can go through the slides. I can just be happy to answer questions on specifics, with the development, and then we can get into questions.
Before we even go there, I'm gonna ask you a question. The original plan had an amphitheater. You guys have taken that out?
No, the amphitheater is still there. It's over in the village center concept and the landscape plans. And in August, we said we'll be more than happy to work with the town. And I believe there's a summer concert series committee, and we proposed in August, we'll still do that. To have a real stage with power and with lights for bands to hook up. Part of the clubhouse, we're gonna have, the clubhouse will be for Shoreline residents with key card access, so they'll have in bathrooms and pool and all that inside, but in addition to that, we're gonna have public bathrooms outside. Well, bathrooms, but outside door access, that any public that's hiking around, walking around, or people coming to the summer concert series, they'll have access to bathrooms. So yeah, that's still part of the plan, and it's on the landscape plan for the village center area, kind of over in by the pickleball courts.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when you first put this concept forward, phase 4 did not have 239 units, did it?
Not specifically, the 2016 HGY preliminary approved plan had 700 units total.
Okay.
So
But all of your phases?
all the phases
I'm
added up.
I'm asking specifically in regard to phase 4.
Right, but we won't go over the 700 total.
So how much in 2016 did you estimate phase 4 with that?
I'd have to look at.
65.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and counting 65 units. So,
Well, to answer your question there, that was the single family, and single family where kind of phase 4 is now. And then the multifamily.
okay, well, kind of,
Yeah.
65. I'll even call it 80. And now you want to do 3 times that.
But we're.
200, so hear me out.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, where were you gonna put all of these if you aren't, if you were gonna put 70 here originally, where were you gonna put the other 170 that you now wanna shove in here?
Yeah, you probably have more demonstrators, but my understanding of it, what it is a lot of it was gonna be stacked flats that were actually up closer to the existing single family home developments. And so kind of further to it would be the east, the southeast. And that, the original concept plans had a lot of density there, tall density stacked flats. And the request came from the town, could you maybe shift that away? So there's more of a transition in scale between single family homes and what will be the density. And so we shifted that density. The commercial was also down below. And another request that we got was, can't you shift that commercial density up closer to the major roadways, which was another move that came about with the concept plan. But yeah, we've definitely shifted that density around, but it was in good faith made to kind of show a transition in scale and have our highest density furthest away from the existing single family homes.
So was that, hold on a second, was that the town, like town council said that, or was that a specific person or a couple of people that suggested that? Because I'm Shoreline 1, and I just wanted, this is not the updated design was not what we bought. And so we were under the impression that below us was gonna be single family homes. And that's what was palatable to us, and we liked that, and we liked it, you know, I mean, the recreation center where you put now, where you moved that to, I thought that was very good, I thought that was a good idea. And the amphitheater in Dead Man's Gulch, which is another thing I need to discuss with you, but you know, to switch to then move it and have us all then look at row homes. I'm from Philadelphia. I feel like I'm gonna be looking at row homes down there. I mean, that's just, it's never, ever in your original 2016 where that I know that there were gonna be 6 plexes. And how with all those 6 plexes? I mean, it's not aesthetically pleasing. I understand we have an MDA, I understand this, that we have, you know, you're allowed to build so many doors. But that, I don't understand, was it the town, as far as I know, the town council never gave you permission to switch that around. Was it a specific person?
Yeah, I wasn't involved in the conversations directly myself. My understanding it was town council members that made the request. We didn't have a concept plan in front of them for all of these phases at that time, so it wasn't a formal. They were before the formal setting.
Council, with all due respect, it's not like you shifted some around, it's like you shoved as much as you could into that plan.
And
It's drastic.
how are those people, like, if there's a fire in the state park and it's coming up, how are all those people gonna get out of there?
They're, as far as the egress for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's up higher where it was before, then they can get up first and then everybody else can follow them.
Yeah,
But
their
if
fire code
everybody's
requires.
down there.
And the fire code requires, you know, multiple ways in and out. In fact, when phase 3 got put in, you know, there's 3 exits going north over into Lakeview into Deer Waters. Plus you have the road going up to Longview Drive. So there's 4 exits in and out of this area. And then,
Yeah, but
There's 2.
There's only one exit at the top here where we are,
And there's
onto
one
248 and one exit down by
through Lakeview Estates.
yeah, it can handle it.
So
So-
the density is down below.
Yeah. So again, the 700 units was approved in 2016 and the
But
code,
not
I know, and
configuration.
well. The agreement at the time, there had been one more exit out of town, the north exit going out to Highway 248 going north, and that's put in. So that requirement's been satisfied. So
What?
I knew a
get too many-
traffic study was requested. Has
Right.
there been one done?
It's been done. So,
an evacuation study.
so let me, to answer your
Folks
question.
in the audience, could you please keep your comments to yourself?
So quick answer to your question, phase 7 had 145 units, phase 8 had 192 units, so that kind of moved around. So if this is 239 units, then future phases are just gonna be smaller. So, and at request, we moved, the single family homes up below Skyview, or,
As request, who requested that?
several people on town council, and they were acting as, you know.
Can you tell us when?
Huh?
Can you tell us when?
Yeah, I've got some emails that we could provide.
But-
So, for this document, this was on the phase 3 town council approved documents. So this map has already been submitted, which flip-flop single family homes up here and some multifamily down here. And then that request, putting the commercial retail up on Shoreline Drive and Recreation Lane.
And Glenn, real quick, what does single family attached mean?
Single family attached is multifamily townhomes.
All right, because it's not specified,
Yeah.
I mean, according to your 2016 map here, it just doesn't look like long.
Yeah, so
Oh.
single family attached can be duplex on up to, you know, townhomes, however long. Stack flats or condos when you have living above and below.
Well, from a planning perspective, the current proposal is probably an example of something that you would never want to approve. In your previous phases, the roads aren't straight, they're nice and curved, I think that your buildings look very nice. There are differences in them, but this straight roads with these huge buildings on them, it just doesn't do it. I mean, I don't know.
And the original where I live, you have a line that says single family attached and they're duplexes. And then down below, Lariat Court, it says single family attached. And they look like the same as what's up on Shoreline 1. So why would anybody think that they're gonna be long row homes? According to this, you know, I'm
To this,
I mean, it's shocked.
yeah, and the boxes on the 2016 preliminary plat, they can be bigger than they see on concept plan. So the R spa, which is in the town code, that allows for the flexibility to move things around. You know, and so that's in the town code, the 2010 code, and all of Shoreline is the R spa zoning by the town zoning maps.
There's also a building where there's a current detention basin. Is that, what's gonna happen there, a problem?
There's no longer a detention basin there.
No, there is one there right now with water in it.
In part of our current plan.
It's
in the world.
No, I'm talking about this
Right there.
building right there,
Oh, by the power line.
where it's right across from the mailboxes for Shoreline 2.
Oh,
There's a-
just below Longview Drive.
It's a
Yeah, that-
it's a biplex.
No, on Recreation Way or Upside.
Where are you looking, Dennis?
I'm looking,
Oh, that's a temp basin for phase 3. That Ryan and Keel Engineering wanted that put in until the future storm system can be put in for phase 4. And that channels all the stormwater, you know, down and out and then discharges across the property line towards the store now. So that was just put in temporarily. All the new storm calcs accommodate the storm pipes that'll go away. So our civil engineers handle all that. That's all in storm calcs and such. So
if we don't get to see that now, though, huh?
yeah, but that can be presented.
It's Gordon Miner here as town engineer. I have comments relative to the engineering when the time's appropriate.
Go ahead, Gordon.
The applicant submitted uh, final engineering plans back in the fall. I issued comments to the applicant, and there were a lot of comments and substantial issues. You see that in the staff report that's been included, distributed to the commission and the applicant. The applicant has not responded to any of the comments, has not resubmitted. And so there's just, I don't know how you, I don't know even how, how you continue a discussion about any of the engineering issues when the applicant has not resubmitted. So on that basis alone, I'm recommending denial.
Thank you, Gordon.
So as the applicant, we have submitted some, and our engineer's on the phone right now. We'll be more than happy to work with staff on getting all the engineering questions worked out. So,
But did
David-
you talk to Gordon though?
yeah, we've
So,
had several meetings.
so there was an email sent from just yesterday that I sent to the applicant. They resubmitted some drawings, but the applicant was informed that the submittal was incomplete, and therefore the new review cycle has not begun. So there, for all intents and purposes, a resubmittal has not happened.
We're in an interesting spot. If I could walk through, we're kind of jumping all around and maybe I can focus on what our application is, and I'll try and, I'm sensitive to everyone's time, yours and ours. I was hoping to kind of cover, it looks like you guys are very familiar with this location and you've keyed in on where we've moved density around, but this gives everybody a view here of what we're talking about, where we're talking about. We just talked about the numbers already, so I'll skip over that. This, I did want to show some of the visuals for those that haven't seen them yet. This is a denser product, but we've tried to vary it and provide good architectural style that fits in and looks good. You can see some of the concepts we have in the proposal. I don't know if everyone's seen these.
Are these fourplexes, excuse me?
These are the sixplexes, I believe.
Yeah, the building boxes can be 3, 4, 5, or 6 plexes. Now, we don't know what we're gonna end up building. You know, it just depends on what market demand. So
This is a planning committee.
So basically, Glenn, with all due respect, you're asking us to approve this, but not having any idea what the hell is going in there. Other than this, whatever somebody wants to come up and buy.
No.
We have a good idea, but it will be.
A good idea is not what.
We're asking for the 239 units, and that'd be the max with the bigger boxes on there being 6 plexes. And there's the 4 plexes and 5 plex boxes on there. So that's what we're asking for, the maximum. Now, in all reality, the demand may not be there for smaller units. People may demand had like a bigger home. So that same footprint of a box will go down to 5 plex or even 4 plex. So it'd be less units in this
No,
big.
in the pictures that you were showing though, were those fourplexes?
This is a uphill 4 plex. We've got elevations and plans for 12 different buildings. So it's pretty thorough. So there's uphill plans, downhill plans. Kind of a key concept of these plans will have rooftop decks on all the units. So that's a downhill concept. So you'd have a driveway on the main floor, you'd have one upstairs, and then you'd have a walkout basement on the, behind that. And then, you can kind of see a railing in there with, those are private rooftop decks for each unit, and then go back a slide. So that'd be an uphill style. So you enter on the ground floor, and then, the main deck area, there's kind of a kitchen, living, dining space. And then the windows on the second floor up there are, bedrooms and such. And then you can see people, excuse me, you can see people on the top with a rail, deck, rooftop deck. That little window there, that's just kind of the stairs getting up to the rooftop deck.
Yeah, the design schematic feels more like single family or townhome residence rather than large blocks. And
So we've hired one of the most premier architects in the country for the village center design, landscape architecting. You know, they've done high-end communities all over the country. And so we're relying on their expertise for the design and such for the elevations and buildings.
And we are excited to bring these amenities online. I mean, this is gonna be an excellent clubhouse with pickleball, once, you know, and all the other amenities associated with it, the swimming pool, other things. Where it's located, it ties in well to all the public trails that are there. We'll be improving upon those. Glenn already talked about the amphitheater, which I think is something that's entirely lacking in Hideout, frankly, is some sort of gathering space, and that's what this creates. This is the phase where it comes online. Sorry, go ahead.
I have, on that subject, what happened to Dead Man's Gulch? I mean, okay, we go down there all the time, you got rid of the trail that was there, you changed the entire topography of that. You moved so much dirt on there and then took it away, I mean.
So
totally
a
changed
lot of the dirt that's been, so yeah, it had to get widened at the bottom of Dead Man's, so. Is there one more
But is
slide?
that legal? I mean, can you do that?
I was under the impression there was also a wildlife corridor.
Correct.
Dead Man's Gulch.
Yes.
I'm
So-
sure.
This is clear at the bottom, so everything that's up the canyon a little bit will be revegetated and re-landscaped. So amphitheater, natural grass, lawn area and such up in there. This is down towards the bottom. But yeah, everything above the trail will tie back in. In fact, you can see on that slide there, and you can. Here's the trail that ties into Dead Man, so wrap around here, we kind of have parking here. Over here, there'd be the bathrooms for the outdoor, people, anybody who's welcome to use pickleball courts. We envision, food trucks coming in for the public, for the summer concert series and stuff. So everything will be restored back and revegetated. I mean, we're really big on landscape for all our homes. If you drive over to Russell or even phase one,
I'm sorry to laugh. I disagree with that statement.
We think this is perfectly positioned to be a great community event, particularly for what you said, right? If you're walking those trails in Dead Man's Gulch. And this is.
Which I have and they're gone.
well, it's at the very bottom, and because of construction that's going on, we don't want anybody, coming down here. To get hurt or anything, so rest assured, we promise, it'll get tied back in, the trail will be, brought through phase 4, through the village center. It'll tie into the trails that are in phase 3 and phase 2, and then the loop that comes around. And then, there's the trails up in phase 1 that goes down to the intersection of Recreation Drive and kind of underneath those power poles, so we're committed to do that and tie it all back in.
Here's a rendering of what the clubhouse looked like. Anybody that hasn't seen it.
What about?
Views below. Here's the open space. We're actually at 50% open space, that we're proposing with this density. It's 50% open space. Now let's talk about you bring up a
When you
great
say
point.
50%, you say 50% of that flat?
Yes, this is this phase. This phase.
This phase is 27 acres for this phase, counting the village center, the pickleball course. So before we get into that, go back to was there any other questions you had in your packets and the overall
I
concept?
just wanna know if there's anything new for you.
There's
last
not,
time we met.
no. So there's nothing new on the packets, the same packet that Thomas presented. Just for those that weren't here, is any other further
Pool,
questions?
pickleball courts,
Uh-huh,
yoga room.
uh-huh.
Yeah, I got all that.
The
That-
clubhouse is like
Clubhouse.
6,000 square feet. It's a big clubhouse. And again, the architecture firm that we've hired does high-end premier clubhouses all throughout the country. And, we're relying on
And
their
it's,
expertise.
and it's gonna be there before I go into assisted living.
You have a date in mind, Donna?
I promise it'll be there before we go and assist you. So, no.
Can you put a bond to that?
Want to get it up as soon as possible. You know, financially, there's a burden that you want to saddle the residents to do it. It's an amenity for us. Clearly, phase 4 needs to get approved before we even can think about it. Let me point out one other thing, go back a couple slides. And Brian, he's on the Public Works Committee. So okay, stop there. Go back one. You guys are aware, I don't know if you're aware that there's the new Vantage Lane sewer lift station for the town. You know, it's down there at the lower corner of phase 2. So that was in the fall of 21. Ryan Taylor approached us and said, hey, the current Dead Man's pump station that's down here on the hill with the green roof.
The green room.
Yeah, that's really getting old. That's taken a lot of, and the town is either gonna need to upgrade that thing, a major overhaul. Ideally, it'd be better down in this far corner. Anyway, an agreement was worked out that us and Homes paid for 95% of that as basically a gift to the town. And then it benefited us because the current pump station is on phase 4 property, so that could be abandoned and go away. And then we could, you know, have that land that sits on our
build
property.
on it.
Yeah, you know, it's our land, you know, could easily go away. Anyway, part of all that right now, just for and Brian's aware of this and you can chime in. All of Homes, Deerwaters and Shoreline 1 and 2 and 3 sewer goes to that. And then it pumps up to the Ross Creek station. Okay, the plan is with this, and it's on the civil plans. Currently, there's a sewer line that comes down here and there's one that comes off the hillside off of, the development called the gated one.
Chuhey?
No,
Reflection.
Reflection Ridge.
Reflection.
Anyway, then there'll be a new 12-inch sewer line come in, it'll come down this road and come in and then tie in to the,
Reflection Ridge.
it'll tie into the new, it ties in Reflection Ridge
Oh,
and it ties in. So all the rest of the
Oh,
sewer
to the
for
new
town,
pump station.
it'll go to the new pump station. Anyway, so there's kind of a time thing, you know. That'll be the first thing that we're committed to do, is to run the brand new sewer line, attach it to the old ones, and then take down the current station before the town has some, you know, long-term problems. Is there anything you want to add to that, Brian?
I don't know if I'm allowed to comment. Yeah, I say, it was- I'm not, okay, so I won't.
Okay, so anyway, I just want to clarify that. You know, that's kind of an important item on this, and the reason why the roads are to get that sewer from where it needs to be to gravity feed to all the new station, and that's part of it. And then, this phase needs to get approved to, at some point, do the clubhouse before Donna and I are in assisted living. So,
Since I wasn't here at the last meeting, can I just ask, one question? I don't see any on-street parking.
that map doesn't have it. Do we have one that shows it?
See one in my.
Okay, so
This is the off-street parking associated with the club.
this has
That's
some
fine,
options.
that's fine.
So-
What about
The code requires 2.5 parking stalls per unit,
oh,
okay? So you have 2 in your garage, you have 2 in your driveway, so automatically we're at 4, okay? So by the code minimum, we as a developer wouldn't have to provide any more parking, but we are going to provide more parking.
Am I supposed to go with this?
Well,
this is
this is a civil plan. I mean, there's 10 here, 4 here, more. I'd have to count them up. There's probably another 65 or 70.
That's the one side of
These are-
Regarding on-street parking, they've chosen to do the narrow street that only allows parking on one side.
And, yeah, and really, there's no on-street parking during the winter. You know, we'll post those signs and, you know, we try to enforce no on-street parking at all you know, Glennis, do you see people parking on the street? In phase two, do you see people parking on the street?
Well, we don't have any parking on our street.
But
so-
you see people, I mean, I think in general, they don't park on the street, they either park in the guest stalls or their own driveways. So,
Well, we
and-
don't have any guest
yeah,
parking on my street or on Sailwater, so, people can park on the street. yes.
part of the parking in the CCNRs that we create, and develop, the homeowners are required to keep, they're not allowed to use their garages for storage. And they say, hey, you need to use this for your, to park 2 of your cars, and then you have 2 more in your driveway. So there is some teeth with the CCNRs to enforce that with HOAs. So. Any other questions on general? We can keep going through the slides, yeah.
I just have a suggestion.
Mhm.
No, where these roads meet,
Uh-huh.
it would look really nice if there was a roundabout and there was something pretty in the middle. No,
Yeah.
I'm into aesthetics and the planning and. Like I said, our streets are not
Do you
straight.
have the?
These streets are pretty damn straight.
Anyway, you'd be, I mean, so you don't know these sixplexes, I'm gonna help you out. Sixplexes. And these straight roads, I mean, since I guess because of the sewer, you're saying following the sewer line down the straight road and you changed. Is there any other reasoning why you made the straight roads this
Well,
way?
we're following the natural topography of the hill coming up.
Okay,
Natural topography.
So on a plan that big with 27 acres, the roads may look like they're straight as narrow. But you know, go down to phase 2, drive down Perfect Pass, look down the roads. You see, they do meander and wind more than you think. So,
Not those though.
well, that's what I want to challenge you. They do wind and meander more than you think. So they do wind enough where the sewer needs to be running straight. There's certain distances you have to stick with the water. It needs to stay within the asphalt. So as those roads do wind, you know, we have to make sure the sewer can stay in the road and doesn't travel outside the road.
Yeah, but that's just gonna follow one of those roads. Got the other road kinda, and or can some of the,
Again, they
some of the
took,
buildings go this way?
They do.
or
No, they
this
take-
way?
so
Like,
that-
could you do that on?
yeah, because phase 2,
Yeah, yeah.
so this is a footprint box and then the buildings will sit inside of it. So we haven't put the.
So that's a
exact
building envelope.
envelope, correct. And it's not exact where the
Right.
architectural lines up. So there is some room to talk about. We as a developer would rather have good streetscapes. And yeah, that's. one
Because
aspect of it.
the smaller boxes, like the 4-plex,
Mm-hmm.
like, you
Yeah.
guys have, and us, the 2-plexes. I mean, you have more options to put on an angle
Yeah.
versus this big one, you
There-
can't put that on an
These
angle.
boxes are. They're literally 20 feet, maybe some quote me up to, they're maybe 20 or 30 feet longer than a phase 2 4-plex. They're not that big.
Wait, so,
You think,
yeah, but,
you think.
I mean, from the top of Deer Valley, they look pretty darn big.
Yeah.
Yours.
Mm.
I can't imagine even 20 feet making it big. So is there any way you could just do 4-plexes along here instead of 6?
The market will, this is what we're going for this, 239 total units. We're not specifically saying that's a 4-plex, 6-plex box.
So when will you make this decision?
It's market demand,
So as you build, you'll decide.
yeah, we'll do it plat by plat.
Right.
So,
And then,
And when you say flat by flat, phase 4 is how many flats?
we are not, maybe 4.
right.
So, yeah, when it goes to plat, then you'll have to find, the actual unit and address. So, and I work with the Wasatch County getting the address.
And then do you plan on building on all that fill that you put in there that I've watched the trucks and we had the trucks go past our
We've got
houses?
thousands of compaction tests.
I mean, that fill, doesn't it have to settle? Is that safe?
We've got thousands of compaction tests, and it's good.
Thousands of what?
You compact.
Compaction tests. It's all compacted and lift and tested.
And it's all been approved
Yeah.
and.
Yeah,
Do you know what order you plan to?
well, the
May I correct the record there? You asked if it's all been approved. That's not true. There's been no town oversight as to the documentation of that fill.
okay, well, geoengineering was involved at the time, and I've got thousands of compaction tests we'll be happy to send over. So to answer your question, what phase first, the first road we're gonna do will be the one closest to the fence line on the paper, because that's where the sewer main needs to go.
Over here.
Yeah. So, and if you go, you can go back. I mean, we're committed to do that, to get the sewer main for the town installed as quick as possible.
And then second will be the recreation center.
We'll see. If sales go well, we have the developer want to get in as soon as possible. So,
They're gonna put the road in, but why are you gonna be building along the road?
we haven't decided exactly what buildings we'll do again, because there more demand for uphill, downhill, what size units, so we'll get involved.
I think it's important to keep in mind, part of the challenge is we have 700 units, right? That's the density. And to get 700 units in one space, there's gonna be areas that are more dense than others, right? You have to make that.
Wasn't 700 the maximum? Maybe that acreage really couldn't handle 700.
Actually, there's pods on the preliminary plan that if we scale the units on that pod to the acres, it's a lot more dense than this.
Yeah, but we're not using the preliminary plan.
So
We've changed that. So, I mean, you refer to it when it makes sense for you, but when it doesn't make sense, you want to throw that away.
we're.
So what I would like to see, I would like to see the emails before I make any decision. And if you want to ask us to make a decision tonight, I believe that's your right.
Mhm.
I would like to see the emails that you said tonight and you have said before that you have from the town of Hideout asking this to be moved. So I would like to see those emails.
I can pull them up.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that
That's number one.
And again, the.
Number two.
Sorry.
Number two, I would like to have all of the questions that the town engineer has addressed to you be answered.
Yeah, well, that's not gonna get answered tonight, that'll get answered.
No, I know it's not.
between, you know,
Right.
now and town council, and then we'll get those questions
Right.
in prior to town council.
But before I make a decision, I would like answers to those.
And the future phase up here, and you said future phase, this whole area, what is that going to be then?
Well, we committed to put single family flip flop and put some single family homes up below sky or.
Because
Silver Sky.
someone asked you to do that.
Depends on the market.
And that was a better buffer, and we agreed that's a better buffer between single family homes and multifamily. And again, the RSPA in the zoning code allows for the flexibility moving around, so we're just following the RSPA code, so needs reference.
Joel, just to be clear, this is, Mr. Gable's second hearing in this. So unless he consents, we'll have to vote on this tonight.
Okay.
So we need to vote on it tonight, we need to go to town council, but again, I'm here tonight to answer any questions. And then I'll commit that all those questions that, I'll be happy to get those emails to you tomorrow. You know, I get tonight's the vote.
Right.
But, and our engineer will work with the town engineer and get all those other, questions resolved.
Right. See, I feel like, this has gone on since January.
Yeah.
Whenever, last year, talk about the emails we haven't provided.
Yeah.
So my vote tonight would be no, because I don't have the information.
Okay, and again, they haven't asked, but
Pardon me?
I haven't, it's the first time I've heard that you personally asked for the email.
Well, you said you would provide them last time, and you haven't provided them. You did.
Okay, if I did, I don't recall that.
Okay, well, that's fine. I do recall.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I know, I'd still like to see some more green space and some more parking.
And we can add parking where we can, we're not totally, we'll just draw more in the plan, and, As the roads go in and buildings go in, if I can get two stalls right there, we'll put 2 more stalls in, plug them in wherever possible.
Thomas, I have a question for you. It's Joel. And, I wasn't here when all this was going in the R spa. Is it normal, every applicant who has come in with a defined, a defined plan? And I don't feel like there's a plan here. So does this fall under different guidelines, different policies? I think of Elkhorn Springs and he has everything specifically laid out. I think of Wild Horse and they have everything laid out. And again, I don't know if that's different rules than this because this was preliminarily approved. How does that work, Thomas? And I guess I don't even know if you're the right person to ask that question to.
So the R spot is an overall zoning district designation for the entire MDA. So it allocates density to the entire MDA. And the 1,975 units that it allocates in the MDA that was adopted in 2010, there are some density pods, which aren't zoning, but they're density pods, and they start to give an indication of where density would go. There is a density pod on a portion of the shoreline property, but not all of it. And then the rest of it is considered RSPA, which is generally kind of thought to be the open space. We can tweak things and move things. They're not hard lines, but to answer your question, the RSPA is a bit of a kind of an overall plan development proposal. And so it appears to be a little bit looser. It's a little hard to answer your question with regard to specifics, but typically in terms of heights and things like that, the density pod that was noted in the MDA here is for single family development, and it's got a height of 35 feet. And so we probably start to look at those metrics as we examine this, but it's not hard and fast the way the MDA is written, but there is a density allocation, certainly, up to 700 for this particular development for shoreline. But this, I suppose maybe a shorter answer would be that we would start to look at the preliminary plan from 2016 to really start to get our head around what's approved for where, because otherwise it's a little bit loose.
So the 2016 plan, does that have all 700 units in it?
Yeah.
It illustrates maybe
But this doesn't have 700 here.
yeah.
Oh, you don't have.
I don't have that.
The
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah,
I got it right here.
that would be great. Okay, thanks.
So Thomas, is there no requirement that we know the type of house that's gonna go where as far as like the sixplex and the duplex and? Is
Well,
that,
I think you guys are starting to touch on that a little bit now with regard to some of the changes that are being proposed that are different than the 2016 plan. I mean, my initial answer would be we would look to the 2016 plan to see where different housing typologies go. But I think that Glenn is proposing something, moving some of the densities around. And I think that maybe Glenn could actually answer that question better than me, how that is being proposed.
I can't promise you, that's all right. You guys are hitting on a great point. I'm only like a little ways in my presentation, so I'll move quickly, but this is exactly what.
So real quickly, with 50% open space, the people ask the question of density. This is 8 units per acre, which is not dense. I mean, you got to picture 2 fourplexes being on a football field. It's not high density. The high density you find in Salt Lake, perhaps Utah County, your high density gets into 16, 18, 20 units per acre. This is not that at all. 2 fourplexes from phase 2 sitting on a football field is what this is.
Right, and I'd be happy with
Yeah.
4plexes versus the 6plexes.
Okay.
What's the density of shoreline 2? Sorry.
I got it.
You're a troublemaker.
We'll get an answer to that. But 50% open space is very high. I mean, if you look generally on the Wasatch Back, that's a very high open space rate. generally. But you're striking on big issues. This project really turns on vested rights, and the question earlier was great. It's like we have a lot more clarity and definition on some projects than others. This happens, the MDA and the RSPA here are very, very flexible. And part of the reason I think they were created in a flexible manner is because they contemplated development over a long period of time. When you have a smaller project that you're looking to just develop quickly, you know what the market demands are gonna be, you finish it all in one phase, and you can get into the granular detail. You actually have your engineering done in the context of the MDA, right? You're moving through that. The RSPA and the MDA is a little different. It projected just the number of units, up to 700 units within this location, and then allowed a lot of flexibility within that. This is, I pulled some language from the MDA just so that we can see it.
Well, also, Counselor, you have to realize when this project was approved, there's a whole different cast of characters on the town council and the planning commission.
That's right.
And quite honestly, I don't think a project like this would have gone as it's both of currently staff.
I imagine you're right. I would tend to agree with that, right, over time. But we have what we have, right? We have a vested development agreement that exists and that allows that flexibility. I think you're looking at things much more closely now, and I think frankly, that's a good idea, right? As you analyze each project. This one is a little bit different. So we're not in the same vehicle. We're not at the same stage of the game as you are with other projects where they're coming in asking for a rezone and asking for, new density and a different way of thinking about this. All of that was taken care of here back in 2010. And now we're dealing with how that effectuates out. How do you make that fit in a way that makes sense?
So in August, I had asked Glenn if we could divide the 229 units up into smaller phases. I think it would be more digestible for us because we could see what you were gonna put in each space as opposed to trying to approve such a large space. And I don't quite understand why that's not something that.
Yeah, we'll come in, when we record plats, that's not a council or, that's just within staff.
There will be a staff review at each plat every year. But part of it is, I mean, Glenn talked about the sewer line that they're gonna put in.
A lot of major infrastructure needs to go in now. In fact, power and sewers and stormwater will need to come down Recreation Lane. It's gotta go on the Vantage Lane to the bottom. If it's not all done at once, it can't be done.
We actually started grading the entire site under a grading permit last year, and now we've got to come in and put the infrastructure. So we're doing the big projects first, and then the whole thing will not go up for sale at once. We'll have to apply individual pieces.
This could be, depending on market conditions, 5 to 8 years over time. Go back to the general site plan. We'll put it. So to answer your questions, so the asphalt right now ends right here, as you pull down to phase 3. This road needs to go in to bring back all the stormwater. It's coming down Recreation Drive now, and it's got to get down here now. This road's got to go in, pick up that sewer. All of these need to go in to collectively do all the stormwater system, and power's got to loop through. In fact, power wants a loop. The gas guy companies, they don't like long dead ends. They want to bring in a loop of gas coming through here and then stub out to future roads. So the roads aren't all going to go in at once. All the utilities, it'll be phased in, but that's why we need to get the whole thing approved at once, because the whole thing acts like one big pot in utilities and access and stormwater.
Do you think you can get the utility, if this was approved soon,
Mhm.
can you get all the utilities in by this summer?
What we have to get in is the Vantage Lane, the 12 inch.
The sewer.
The sewer main, and then stubs to future roads, and then it'll just depend on market conditions when we do future stubs. So the answer is all that gonna go in one summer? No. But will the backbone go in and get the sewer and stormwater tied in? It needs to get in, and then it'll be stubbed out for the smaller little roads and such. But anything else about that?
Do any of the commission members have any more questions, or can we proceed to the public comment phase of this, which I'm sure will
Doesn't
be
have anything
extensive?
else?
I'm happy to work with what you guys have. It sounds like you're fairly familiar with the MDA and other spot, which is what I'm focused on here. I mean, you guys have brought up some of the provisions I found, which are pretty unique to this, that there's only 2 planning commission hearings at all. You know, one place where we've gotten hung up is with engineering. We're trying to work through a lot of that, but part of it is frankly because of where we view what should apply. You know, from our perspective, engineering should apply as the 2010 engineering vested under that. We've had a little bit of a disagreement as to some of that. I don't need to get into all of that, but I may reserve some time to respond. I'm happy with that.
Seeing that, Mr. Gable asked us for a vote tonight, we're gonna take the public comment
Sure,
now, and
go
then we'll
ahead.
proceed to a vote.
Okay.
All right, anybody that would like to make a public comment about this, please step up to the podium, state your name. You will have a very hard 3 minutes.
JD Cronin, 11557 North Groves Edge Drive, phase 2. Glenn, you said there was a traffic study done on evacuation. What are the results of that?
It's way under the traffic.
Who provided it?
It's a firm out of Salt Lake, so I'll get that emailed over.
So you
can
share that with
Yeah,
us?
it'll be in the record, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, the traffic counts are well within what they need to be for the,
Wait, when was this done?
I can't remember, I think.
Late 2020.
Folks, if you're in the
Like
audience,
2024.
please, when you come up to the podium, you could ask a question, not while somebody else is talking.
Okay, so you can share that with us?
Yeah, and I'll get it to Thomas, it'll be in the record.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, and this is more of a request.
Sure.
Can you commit to getting the recreation started sometime in the middle of the project at least?
The clubhouse?
Yeah.
I can commit to have it started sometime in the middle of phase 4.
Great, thanks. Oh, anything else?
And kind of part of it is getting
Yeah.
all the
No,
utilities
yeah,
over
yeah,
there. I mean,
understand.
we're, you know, people say, hey, just build the clubhouse. Like, I
Great,
can't.
no, as long as there's safety and egress out of the
Yeah,
place,
yeah.
that's great.
Yep,
Thank
okay.
you.
Is there anybody else in the audience? Please step up to the podium.
Hey, how are you? Good. Jason Bob, 11517 Sailwater. So, just a couple comments. So the evaluation that we were just talking about, I would prefer that we're looking at that once the final drawings are established of what the density looks like. Because I'm concerned around the 4 stacks being up front aesthetically and density wise for people that are trying to get out. So connecting those 2 dots. The commercial, so it sounds like there's going to be commercial. I have no idea where that is currently in the drawing. So is that?
It's not
up
this
front?
phase, it's a phase that's up above.
Phase up above.
I'll just be real quick, I know you have a clock. This is shoreline, where do you live?
Phase 2.
Okay, you're down here.
Yeah.
Recreation lane comes down, so this corner off of Recreation Lane and Shoreline Drive, that'd be the.
So that's above where the fire station is currently?
Yes. So the fire station's sitting on our property.
Yeah, right there.
You know,
Okay.
we were in agreement, hey, you go and put it on phase 3 property, we need.
Okay,
So
got it. Okay,
this was a request, get it up closer to Shoreline Drive.
I see. Okay. All right, and then just two other comments just around the safety of coming in and out. So right now, there's only 2 ways in and out. And if we're gonna build, all of this is gonna be built down below. The traffic patterns coming in and out will be quite dense.
Yeah.
And there's no sidewalks. So anybody that lives in those other phase 1, phase 2, or even in phase 3, there's no sidewalks. So people coming in and out, and then the people that actually live in the community are gonna have to deal with all of that. So I'm curious how we're gonna deal with that as well as around safety. And then the last comment is just around the community center and what we're doing with the pickleball courts and all that. I appreciate that because there is really not a community area within Hideout right now. So building that is very much appreciated.
Yeah. So just real quick with that,
They're my comments. Thank you.
technically, the community center and the pickleball courts will belong to the master HOA shoreline residents. But I doubt anybody's gonna police pickleball courts for, you know, if other residents wanna use it. Again, we put it, we're gonna.
You might be surprised.
You'd be surprised.
That's not me in the future, but it's a good turn.
Yeah,
But
they're aggressive.
the public bathrooms will be there available for people walking around, we're committed to put those in. So,
How you doing, sir?
Hello, I'm Dennis Takasugi. I live at 11641 North Groves Edge Drive, and I've been here since 2020. So I just have a few comments for the committee. And fundamentally, like a lot of residents here, when I bought the property, I had an expectation. And that expectation was what I was told and what I saw on the plans. But of course, just like life, things change, but things consistently change. And so I'm a little concerned about, I bought something, it has an infrastructure, that infrastructure was based on previous plans. Those plans have now changed. So I'm asking the committee to be very, very diligent about what was and what is coming in. I mean, I understand from the builder's perspective, you can only afford to build as the market allows. But your plans have changed so much. I am concerned about additional traffic. I'm concerned about whether our roads are wide enough. I'm concerned about all that construction traffic. I know it's going to be temporary, but when all those people come in, it's going to change the dynamic of the community. It changes what phase one expected. It changes what phase two expected. It changes what phase three expected. And so now, what is going to be the true impact of this development on our community? Also, and I heard, Joel, your question to the developer or the builder, that when you've asked for documentation, he says yes, but he doesn't deliver, right? He hasn't given you what you've asked for. I've heard that multiple times from the other conversation. So I'm just asking the committee to be diligent, to get the information you can, so that we can see what has changed. What is the difference in the expectation? Does the infrastructure need to be reconsidered for safety reasons, etc.? And I think the last thing, what can we expect? I mean, we see these drawings, they look beautiful, but we know the result could be different from what is going to be built. So what is really going to be built? When is it going to be built? And when are we going to get our wonderful recreation center? Because it sounds great. And I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. But that's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to make a comment? Hi, I'm Brian Cooper. I've lived at 11266 North Shoreline Court. I've been here since middle of 2019. Phase one, we love it, by the way. The views to die for. On the other hand, having been the past chairperson of the infrastructure committee, I know the complexities of dealing with all the utilities, especially. And I appreciate the storm drainage, but the sewage plan rather, right? Which, by the way, we would have been supporting, I think, four pump stations instead of one. So this was a good.
The town has a brand new state of the.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was a win-win, quite frankly. That said, I want to emphasize what Gordon Miner has said as a fellow engineer. He is very, very competent. And so I urge the committee to, before you approve this, to make sure all the engineering issues have been successfully resolved with Gordon. And lastly, if the recreation center isn't built before Donna and I go to old age home, we can build the old age home.
With the swimming pool.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to make a comment?
Real quick, and while she's stepping up. Yeah. The center, is that for all of Shoreline, or is that just for a particular phase?
It's all
All of Shoreline.
So each
Okay.
phase has their own mini HOA.
But the community center is for all of them.
There's a master shoreline
Okay, thank
HOA
you.
that covers everything.
Thank you.
Yep.
So my concerns are that these traffic studies and evacuation studies, Catherine Woltering. They were done, but he can't tell us what the actual plans are. So how can an evacuation study or a traffic study mean anything if we don't know how many people are on every road? Right? Question two, or comment two, is that he's building public spaces utilized by the community. There's not gonna be sufficient parking as planned for people who want to use them, which is going to flow parking into phase 1, 2, and 3. Those roads are already more narrow than the town's allotted current width. My parents live on North Grove's Edge. If there's a concert at the amphitheater and my parents have a medical emergency, there is zero chance that they will be able to access my parents if they are parked on the street, even on one side. The fire department has said that they could not. So without knowing more details, and respectfully, I understand that you have flexibility, but when you filed your 2016 preliminary plat, you lost some of that flexibility. You committed to certain things in that plat, including that this was going to be single family in this density. And people thought with that expectation. So to now change that without going back, the rules say if you, all I care about is safety and playing by the rules. And I think this committee's job is to enforce the rules. And the rules say that if you change substantially from the preliminary plat that was filed and recorded, you start all over.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question concerning what this young lady had just talked about? To get to Glenn. Yeah, pretty much. I just made a notation so I wouldn't forget, but so anyway, the traffic study, was that done in consideration of the whole phase 4?
Oh, yeah. So
that's
So it's Gordon Minor here. I need to speak about the traffic study when it's my turn.
Okay, Gordon, I'll let you know when.
Yeah.
So we had the traffic study by Fears and Pearson, and it's a Salt Lake firm. It incorporated all 240 units in this phase, and I believe this will just incorporate all future phases for the total of 700 for the recreational area going out. That's been done. I'll get it to Gord or to Thomas as soon as possible. It'll be in the inbox well prior to town council on May 8th. Okay, so I'm committed to that. I've just heard a concern about access. There is that road going down to the clubhouse. You know, past that one building down to the clubhouse. We can do no parking on both sides of that road section. If there's a concern getting emergency equipment down there, which is probably a good idea, no parking both sides, at least that road section. If there's any concerts or whatever going on in the clubhouse. So that's something we can do.
Gordon, I'm gonna ask you to hold off on your comment till the public comment is done, and then you can make your comment about the traffic study, okay?
It's your meeting, Chair.
Thank you. Everybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment?
Hello, Beth Cronin, Grove's Edge Drive, Shoreline 2. Just a couple of quick questions, because most of mine have already been covered. But firstly, I actually want to thank JCD for contributing the land for the firehouse. As you can see, you know, a lot of people have concerns about safety as the density grows. In the area.
It's on lease, you know.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's on loan, it's on
temporary,
loan.
but we're happy that it's there, because otherwise we'd have nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you. My next two questions are kind of hybrid about density in the larger picture for Hideout. One of them is water rights. It was brought up early and you said you have adequate water rights. I would really appreciate some sort of documentation provided to the council or the commission, whoever needs it, to show that they exist, given the density plans here. You know, there's a lot of, and you rumor that Hideout is actually in a deficit and that there's a finite amount of water shares left in the state and that they're very expensive. And it's something that I would really like as a resident for the town to address. And before large dense developments are approved, that it's resolved.
They
Is it
would have,
only,
they would have to provide documentation before the final. MDA or the plat or the
Is
final plat
approved.
is signed off.
that they have the adequate
Yes.
rights? Okay, perfect, that makes me feel better. And then leading into all the density and traffic for the area, and the first development we were discussing earlier is the safety of turning into Hideout off of 248 and a turn lane. So this doesn't really relate to phase 4, and maybe this is not the
You have to
appropriate
keep your
time.
questions directed to just. the
Well,
phase
it
4
relates
issue.
to phase 4 and safety and traffic and egress and, you know,
State of Utah, 248.
yeah, and I can reach out with Thomas. I remember 3 years ago being on a call with Thomas when he said that the town has a right to put a turn lane in, but somebody's gonna die sooner or later being rear-ended trying to get home. So, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Or murdered. Oh, somebody.
Is there anyone
already-
else?
Sorry.
Anybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, somebody was murdered because of the traffic.
Is there anybody online that would like to make a comment in regard to this issue? Okay, there being nobody, we will close the public comment portion here. And now I assume, Mr. Gainsler, you would like us to vote on.
No, Gordon. Gordon.
Gordon, oh yes, Gordon, I'm sorry.
Don't forget Gordon.
Want to make a comment about the traffic study, please?
Yeah, so the, what was submitted, what was submitted was a was a trip generation memo. That's all it was. It just talked about numbers. But I was obligated to deem the submittal and the application complete because he submitted something in the vein, in the flavor of traffic. But it doesn't even remotely resemble a traffic impact study. So a bona fide legitimate traffic impact study has not been submitted.
Thank you, Gordon. Now, we can get to the point where I believe, Mr. Gabler, you would like us to vote on what kind of recommendation we're gonna make to the town council, correct?
Correct.
Rather than go forward, all right? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. To, with exceptions. Well, with recommended, well, I actually would like to see the traffic study. A legitimate traffic study.
Yeah, we'll give it.
So I don't know how to word that in a motion.
I'll make it.
Go ahead, you make a motion.
I will make a motion to either give a positive or negative recommendation to the changes in shoreline phase 4 that Mr. Gabler has presented at this time to the town council. Somebody like to second that?
I'm not sure I understand.
Well,
That's
you
the
have
second
to-
motion.
He has to vote.
You have to give,
Yay or no.
so we can vote
You said a positive or
negative
Right.
recommendation.
So which one is it? Right.
Well, I'm gonna let them vote as to how they,
Oh, so.
You really need a
You
motion
need a motion,
to affirm,
yes,
to make a positive recommendation, or a motion to make a negative recommendation?
right.
okay. Does anybody want to do that?
That we make a positive recommendation to the changes as described by Mr. Gabler to the, help me out here, seem like,
Changes in phase 4.
Yeah, and you can, along with the recommendation, you can request the additional information that's been discussed tonight.
That's what I'm.
Traffic
So,
study.
request that.
Yes, that's what I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
The
Something
traffic
like-
study and emails.
Traffic study, emails, documentation, GSSD, well, I guess we had. JSSD, I'm sorry.
Does anybody want to second that?
So when you say JSSD, do you mean the water
Well,
rights?
yeah,
or-
water rights, if they adequate documentation, traffic study.
On that one point on the water rights, that's actually required at final plat. We will provide it at final plat.
And if I may, put Joel's recommendation, we have the full traffic study, not just the traffic count. So I'll get that emailed over to Thomas tomorrow.
Also that the recreation center will be built. Midway through phase 4.
Started or completed? Or the old age.
Or before we go in a retirement center, whichever comes first, okay?
Okay, just to clarify, the recommendations are a recommendation of the council, right? We can't bind the applicant.
Can't find.
No,
Okay,
None
right.
of, so
Okay.
it's, we're
Alright.
recommending to the council and saying, hey, these are the additional things we want you to consider.
Okay,
And that part I think is fair.
okay.
Can I add, just, we'd like to see a landscaping plan
No,
and
you can just-
a parking plan?
I submitted all the landscape
There is a
plans to
landscape.
Thomas.
You
He's got 'em.
you can discuss, after there's a motion made, you can discuss and then resubmit a motion, do an amended motion. Right?
Yes.
Would somebody like to second Joel's motion?
I will.
Then we will take a vote.
Is there a discussion on the motion? I'd like to make a comment before that.
Did we not have an addition or discussion?
I thought that would be it.
No, because then, once you vote, it's done.
Motion, second, discussion, vote.
Motion, discussion, second.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Or-
Whatever you want to discuss.
I have a recommendation to add to the motion.
Go ahead, Gordon.
So what it sounds like is you're considering forwarding a positive recommendation with conditions to the council. And I would suggest that you add a condition to comply with all the city engineer's red lines.
With the what? I'm sorry.
Comply with all the city
Engineers.
engineer's red lines.
Oh,
And that is required in the NDA.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what you're here. The NDA doesn't require us to call, it requires us to comply with those that are exceptions to the vested code or in 2010.
So with all due respect, you're not the council's attorney. The MDA requires you to make a good faith effort to comply with the issues that are identified by the engineering and the staff.
I agree with that.
We'll make
I
a
agree with
good,
that.
good faith effort.
Well, it's important to. The motion's been seconded. We will take a vote. Rachel?
No.
Joel? No. Donna?
no.
Glynis?
No.
And Tony is a no. So there, 5-0 for a negative recommendation to the town council. That being said, we will now move on to the next issue on the calendar. You know, you were going to go to.
We're talking about
Next item on the calendar
Thank you.
is consideration and possible recommendation to the Hideout Town Council for a proposed amendment to the engineering design standards manual. Okay, Gordon. This is all on you.
Thomas is running the computer screen there. So,
Alicia's running it.
oh, Alicia, okay. So if you could just show those one by one, Alicia, I'm not in a position to,
But yeah, you're the original house.
yeah, so these are just some minor adjustments. You know, we passed this back in January, and you run into things that, little tweaks that need to be made here and there, and that's what we're doing here. So let's just take them one by one. I'm not seeing anything on my screen.
Yeah, I think they got missed in the packet, so I'm gonna pull them up. So give me just 1 second here. So.
You own the house up by.
Is that where you wanted to be, Gordon?
Yeah.
Oh no, this is mine for Shoreline.
Oh.
So I don't blame you not wanting to understand the right.
That's what Shoreline Phase 4.
No.
Right?
Especially because those ends there, Robert, yeah. That.
Oh, it is, sorry.
Subdivision.
Is it the?
And then changes to different names in clay. And you go up. Change all those down to 248. Look there, subdivision. It's fine, yeah, it's just, well, the upper part's fine. Right? Yeah. No. They can't change that without turning. Changing the existing road. Doesn't do that.
Sorry.
Hey, we'll go back on our
Is it this one, Gordon?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's,
It got missed in the picture.
Oh,
So sorry. Or maybe it was in, I don't know. Anyway,
Actually,
it's here.
Oh, it's that, that's what we're doing, is we're looking at, okay.
Sorry. It's okay.
All right, so we've got about three changes. This is one of them. We just want to. This is, the town is not. I'm hearing a lot of background noise.
No, it's all good with Gordon. Go ahead.
Okay. The town's probably in good shape to not be forced to take outside flows into its storm drain system, but this item just bolsters that position, so the town doesn't get put in a position of having to accept drainage from outside the property and elsewhere. They're not put in a position of trying to be forced to take outside stormwater. That's all this is. We can move on to the next unless someone has questions about this.
I just got back, sorry. What am I trying to say? So I know there's been issues in the state park with water coming from our development from Shoreline 2, which are they supposed to, they being the developer, are they supposed to be designing stormwater management systems to either go over to the gulch where there's already a stream, or the basin that they're now putting a building on top of? Are we supposed to contain our water or send it to somewhere that is existing?
Well, so those are good questions, and happy to entertain them. That's not really what's being talked about here. This is just to protect the city if water, somebody wants to develop that they try to force the city to take it into the city storm drain system. That's what this is about. But to your questions, those answers are pretty simple. That particular issue if you look at historical aerial photography, you'll see there's a spring there before development ever came along. And so it's a misconception that flow there is a result of the development. The development just happened to build on that flow, and they've directed it to that point. So that's naturally occurring flow. It's not because of the development.
Oh, okay, but it may have exacerbated.
And then with regard to water flowing from one person's property to the other, there's it's common law that if water has historically flowed onto property, that the above properties have the right to continue to let it flow onto that property. You can't just buy some property and say, hey, stop dumping stormwater on my property now. It's common law that you've got to let historic flow continue to flow. Does that answer your question?
Okay, can you relate that to number 4?
Well, like I say, this is specifically about prohibiting somebody from trying to force the city to take drainage into its storm drain system.
Yeah, okay, I see the difference. Yeah, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions on this one, we can move on to the next one. Do you have the next page there, Alicia? Oh, okay, so these are several notes. Polly came to me a few weeks ago, maybe some time ago by now, and said, hey, the town has had this requirement in place. I can't remember what she called it, construction mitigation plan, something like that. And she said, with the new standards, have you covered these bases? And the answer was no. And so I took the content of that plan that's been required through other channels, and I incorporated it into the standard notes here. So anytime a developer comes along, they're required to reference these standard notes, and these become rules of their construction. So that's the purpose. That's where this came from, and that's the purpose.
On the flat, is that what you're saying?
No, it goes in their construction drawings. It becomes rules that the contractor has to live by as they're doing construction.
The construction acknowledgement agreement.
Wow. I didn't realize that they were allowed construction on Saturday, Sunday, federal holiday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah, so as far as the details like that in here, I can't speak to those. I just copied them because they're already these are not new requirements. I'm just moving them from elsewhere in the town into this document.
Is that number 5? Is that per our town? Is that per the county, or is that per the state?
That's in the town code.
It's in our town code.
Yeah, like I say, I need to be very perfectly clear. None of this is new. All of this is existing. The town is already requiring all of this. All we're doing is moving it from one regulatory vehicle to another.
Understood.
But the reason we're bringing them before you is because for state law, the engineering standards are part of the general plan. And whenever you change the general plan, the planning commission and the city council have to do that.
How come we don't have that?
It wasn't.
For some reason, it didn't get.
Yeah,
put in the packet
or something.
Oh,
Something happened to my attachments. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
The packet, I thought I had it right, but I did not.
Well, I just came in, kind of on the end of it.
I'll send a new packet around.
Okay.
I know this is a lot of text, but and I don't want to.
Yeah, we'll get one place another guy.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't want to repeat myself too much, but this one should be the least of your worries because there's no change here as far as government. All we're doing is moving it from one document to another.
It's well planned.
Good.
Sorry, I can't see what's up there.
So I think there was one more, Alicia, and it was in the standards that were passed in January. Well, I guess I can't remember. Yeah, I guess the planning commission saw them in January. There was a provision. Oh, there, you're getting to it. There was a provision in the drinking water section that said utilities in private streets are going to be owned and operated privately. And I overlooked that when we did that before because I was in the mindset of referring to JSSD because the town adopts by reference JSSD's standards and specifications. And so I came to realize that and said, oh, we need to add this one too. So this is the same provision as what's in the standards already for the drinking water system. I'm just adding it for the sanitary sewer system.
Reflection Road's the only private road.
Yeah, although this becomes part of the discussion with Wild Horse. Any questions about this one?
Nope. Is that it, Gordon, or do you have any more?
As I recall, there were 3.
Hey, that's what. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Is that, am I remembering that correctly, staff? Since you don't have the
Our sheet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're there. Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, I'd recommend.
No public comment, so hang on.
Sure.
It's listed under public comment. So if anybody in the audience has a comment in regard to this.
William Wolf, I appreciate that, Gordon, explaining the common law and continuing the water flow, because that was my question from the last comment I had. So that clears it up for me. Thank you.
Anybody else? No.
This is probably super long. Just a minor comment. Gordon, I think we do have another private development. I forget the name of it. Is where the apartments are on the other side of 248. Because they had a water main break there and the town inadvertently repaired it and you weren't supposed to. That's the reason I know about it. And it's privately maintained. So there's at least one other instance of this.
I see.
Is there anybody online that would like to make a public comment in regard to this issue? There being no one, we will close the public comment section for this item. Gordon, thank you very much, and thank you for all your help with Wild Horse tonight.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, thanks,
Uh,
Gordon.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll make the motion that we recommend, the ordinance.
To the town council.
Ordinances. Yeah. That we, a positive recommendation that we accept these ordinances.
Changes in the
Or
ordinance.
how about a proposed amendment to the engineering design standard manual? How about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Does anybody want?
I'll second it.
Thanks. We'll take a vote. Joel?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Glynis?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
And Tony's a yes. Thank you very much. I believe that covers everything on tonight's agenda finally.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Do we need to,
Oh, a date.
So we'll do that off the
I'll do
record after.
a doodle poll, so just watch
Yes.
that in your email.
Okay.
Joel?
Yes.
Rachel?
yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Glynis?
Yes.
And Tony's a yes. Thank you all.
Thank you, Thomas.
See you next
Thank you,
month.
everybody.
Thanks all.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Gordon.